Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei was Satan Hunter and pure-blooded devil? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Skylinemaster for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. Let's start this video. Whose hands this might reach. My name is Issei Hayato, age 27. This is my first entry into this journal, which was given to me by my good friend Skylinemaster Gremory 5 years ago. I am a 2-star general in the anti-Satan faction army, leader of the 3rd Special Division, nicknamed the Midnight Spectre Brigade. The head of our great army and my only superior is Fabium Glaciolabalas. At this current moment, I have been tasked with the defense of the city I am in currently, against the inevitable counterattack by the forces loyal to the old Satan faction. I have been told that the enemy numbers in the tens of thousands, compared to my force of L7,000. I do not dwell on the concept of death, but it is a very real possibility. As such, I do not want my existence to go unnoticed, and so, I am writing in this journal. I want anyone who may read this to understand who I am, and not know me as someone who just possibly perished in the defense of Lilith. I was born to Marquis Tsukun Hayato, and his wife, Baroness Kuruma Astaroth. I was the first child to be born to my parents, and the only super devil in the history of the Hayato clan. I descend from the 37th pillar, the pillar of my father, and his father, and am the current heir to this pillar, the pillar of Hayato. I am 4th generation Hayato. My father is Tsukun Hayato, my grandfather is Tomoki Hayato, my great-grandfather was the original Hayato, an 8-winged Ophanium in heaven, who fell with the original Lucifer, 1,240 years ago. I was born on April 15, 1213 AF in the Royal Hospital of Devils in Lucifad. I lived my childhood in happiness, deep within the territory allotted to my family. I have 2 siblings, a younger sister and a younger brother. My younger sister is Kotori Hayato, age 21 currently, and my brother is Shido Hayato, age 19. We spent our many childhood years within the walls of Hayato Manor. My father, a good man and great father, sent for the best tutors money could buy, and brought them to our estate. Maids waited for us, tutors taught us, and the best magic instructors trained us. Our family's natural affinity was for earth, and I excelled in earth spells, as well as lightning spells and hand-to-hand combat. My family's allies included the Gremory, Citri, and Astaroth clans. Due to our family's history, I became friends with Skylinemaster Gremory, Serafal Citri, and Ajuka Astaroth, my cousin, Skylinemaster Ajuka, and I became the best of friends over time, and we did many things over time. We peeped in on women changing, and got frequently beat on because of that. I was quite a pervert back then, and I cringe every time I think of those times. However, the peeping eventually led to me meeting my wife, Akasha Malphus. She was a beautiful woman 2 years younger than me, with vibrant green eyes and flowing pink hair. My family and the Malphus were relatively liberal clans, meaning that we didn't arrange marriages, but let them occur naturally. This was a good thing as we could marry who we wished, and I wished to marry Akasha. She felt the same to me, and we got married on October 22, 1232 AF. We had our honeymoon on the Caspian Sea in the human world, and there, we decided to make love. We conceived a child, a boy by the looks of it. We rushed back to the underworld to tell everyone of the child. I thought there was going to be the best years of my life, still ahead of me. But no, it wasn't. On November 29, 1232 AF, a stunning announcement was made by Rizavim Lucifer, son of the original Lucifer, and head of the current government. He, in conjunction with the ruling council, made up of him, Katyusha Leviathan, Shamdine Beelzebub, and Charlene Asmodeus, decided that the underworld was going to restart the Great War. All clan heirs were required to report to Nama for officer training, immediately. There were numerous devils who opposed this war, my family included. I told my wife of this, and she wanted to flee to the anti-Satan faction, a ragtag group of devils who opposed the current government. This group was started by my good childhood friends, so it was natural to join with them. However, my brother-in-law, Issei Malphus, wouldn't let Akasha go, and so he killed her at our estate in Hayato territory. He killed my wife and my unborn son, right in front of me while smiling. I snapped and impaled him with my right hand, and repeated punched him in the face with my left hand until he died. With this, my resolve hardened. I enlisted into the anti-Satan faction army, with Fabium Glaciolabalas as the supreme head of the overall army. I was installed as the head of the 3rd Special Division, a group of trained soldiers who defected to our cause. My good friend Skylinemaster became head of the Griffin Squadron, while Serafal became head of military intelligence. Back then, I was naive enough to believe that the war was going to be a quick war in our favor. We had 3 of the 4 super devils on our side, how could we not win? Alas, what was supposed to be a quick war dragged on for over 8 years. Many civilians were killed, but the old Satan faction still would not give up. Throughout the war, my division, 7,000 strong, fought through many important battles. It was us who gained control of the Tannhauser Gate. It was us who defended the Agarthan Pass when we were outnumbered 3-1. And it was us who encircled and destroyed the fanatical 7th Armored Cavalry, an old Satan faction army that rode on pale horses. We destroyed the 7th Armored Cavalry on the slopes of the Muspelheim Mountain, when no one else could. However, my greatest triumph was the Battle of Lilith, a battle won merely 2 days ago. We managed to take control of the city from the brutal 32nd Infantry Regiment, an army personally led by Satan Beelzebub. We entered the city last week, and after 5 days of brutal house-to-house fighting, we managed to push the old Satan faction out of the city. When he was cornered, Shamdine decided to fight and try to kill as many of us as he could. He killed dozens of my troops, and then faced me. We launched attacks at each other at the same time, but my attack landed first and turned him into a pile of dust. And since we just took the city, there should be a massive counterattack to this city back. This suspicion was confirmed by scouts, who observed a large force gathering outside of city. There was to be no reinforcement as the bulk of the army was to the south, trying to take key areas, such as the Zibalana Highway and the Hygard River. So it is just my force, against what is estimated to be 15,000 troops. I expect my army to be able to hold this city. My army is the most ferocious fighting force throughout the entire underworld, and what we lack in numbers, we make up for in magical skill, and troops are the most important thing to me, and I take pride that we have the fewest losses of any division on our side. The door to my office has just opened, and in came 3 of my most trusted subordinates, Majors Matsuda and Motohoma, and Brigadier General Kiba Yuto. With this I will end. I put my pen down and stared at my subordinates. Matsuda, Kiba, and Motohoma are young men, younger than me at the age of 23. Matsuda and Motohoma have, shall we say, faults, but they are reliable, trustworthy soldiers that are my 3rd and 4th in command respectively. Kiba, on the other hand, is an almost flawless soldier. He is rational, intelligent, and knows when to fight and when to retreat. He is the epitome of a chivalrous knight, exceeding polite and handsome to the women. Still just at 20 years old, all 3 of my subordinates are wearing magic-reinforced black plate armor. Kiba has a magnificent sword in its scabbard while Matsuda and Motohoma have spears. Are the traps in place? I ask of Matsuda and Motohoma. Yes, General. They replied back, bowing. I knew I could rely on them. The first moment I saw both of these young men 7 years ago, I knew they were reliable. The 2 men limped into my headquarters at Dybbuk after we liberated it from the hands of the old Satan faction. They signed up to our army, and became my trusted subordinates. Matsuda was skilled in intelligence gathering and drawing accurate maps of cities. Motohoma was the genius out of the 2, being able to deduce kill points and strategic strongholds. I nodded back at the 2, and then stared at Kiba Yuto. Did you maintain the earthen rampart barricades I erected? Kiba, the fastest knight in my army, nodded. Yes, I visited each rampart, and made sure the soldiers guarding them were in good spirits, multiple times. He said with a smile. Good. I said, smiling at my subordinate. Kiba Yuto was the fastest soldier that entered my army, having joined us after the Battle of Wicha Hills. His speed was useful to my army many times. Being able to move from place to place to tell of any sudden changes in the battlefield was very advantageous to me. Matsuda, any noticeable movement among the enemy troops? No, General, the enemy is firmly entrenched on the outskirts of the city, and have not moved their positions since. My subordinate replied to me. I see. There is nothing else then. Go around to all of the barricades, and just make sure that everything is running smoothly. I said to my subordinates, who saluted me and then left. I stared at my office after my subordinates left. This used to be the estate of Asmodeus, and right now, I am current in his office. I am walking outside now. The nothingness of my office is boring me, and I'd much rather be with my troops than cramped inside of a tight office. I donned my battle armor, a sleek silver shoulder plate, and retrieved my golden staff for battle, just in case if the attack starts during my walk. I look around, seeing the badly destroyed buildings in downtown Lilith, a once vibrant place, turned mostly into rubble, due to extremely fierce resistance from the old Satan faction defenders, which was the notorious 77th Light Infantry Division. Marble buildings, partially collapsed but with children playing inside of them. The city itself might be in shambles, but the spirit of the inhabitants sure aren't. We entered the city as liberators, and remain as heroes. We saved the citizens from forced conscription into the old Satan faction army and slave labor. We were cheered as the last remnants of the old Satan faction army was pushed out of the city. Our forces immediately swelled up from volunteers from this city, eager to fight against the old Satan faction. General Hayado, please accept this. A feminine voice said to me, snapping me from my thoughts. It is an elderly woman, with a kindly face and graying hair. In her hands she held a bouquet of red flowers for me. This was not the first occurrence of this. Ever since we've arrived here, I've been swamped with women, eager to give me something or ask me to eat at their house. I'm flattered, but I am a soldier, and must fight until the old Satan faction is destroyed, so I had to politely refuse their offers. Thank you, I said politely, smiling at the old woman. She smiled back and left, leaving me free to walk around. A trumpeting sound echoed throughout the city. No, it shouldn't have started this early. The trumpet must signal the start of their counterattack. I dropped the bouquet of flowers, and looked frantically around. I used my staff to cast a spell over the city, and played this message out loud with the spell. All civilians, go to your designated shelters. The spell said in my voice. Kiba. He is running at me with tremendous speed as I heard magical artillery being fired. General, the enemy's artillery barrage has started. Also, the enemy started to charge the barricades on every side of the city. He said frantically. Okay, have the anti-teleportation circles worked? I asked Kiba. We definitely cannot have enemy soldiers within the defensive zone, so I put up an anti-magical circle teleportation spell throughout the entire city. Yes, the spell you used has worked, he said as the artillery started to land near us, blowing up the street near us. I see. Go around to each barricade and make sure that they hold up. I will go knock out the artillery batteries, I said to Kiba, who saluted me before sprinting away. I'm not the type of general who hides behind others. Since my troops are willing to die for me, I'm willing to do the same. I'm the type of general who leads from the front, and I will do just that now. We can't have the artillery batteries still standing, otherwise they will eventually break down the defenses and then they can storm the city. I unfurled my devil wings, and flew to the top of the city to observe the battle. North Quadrant is secure, with my troops firing magical attacks from behind the earthen barricade. The Eastern Quadrant is secure, with my troops engaging in hand-to-hand combat with the enemy. The enemy appears to have been repelled back from the southern and western walls. Alright, enough of that, time to locate the batteries. I closed my eyes and focused my energy. Chi unmasking, I shouted as I unleashed a wave of energy in every direction. This spell will go on for miles until it hits a massive cluster of energy signatures, revealing a battery. Devils can hide their physical presence, but it is almost impossible to hide your energy signature unless you are a master in Chi manipulation. It hit. Okay, north, northwest, and southeast. I rushed at the artillery batteries, which I can feel have turned on me. I dodged numerous fire and wind spells on my way to the north and northwest batteries. I see a large gathering of middle and high-class devils on the fields outside of the city. Okay, time for destruction. Since there is a large amount of devils, I feel that I must use my most powerful spell to destroy all of them at once, to prevent any from escaping. Time to die. I veered sharply to my left, and angled so that I am facing the northwest battery. Earth and fury! I shouted as thousands of earthen spikes came out of the ground, impaling the artillery men at both the northwest and northern batteries. I can no longer sense their presence, so the job here is done. I immediately turned my attention to the southeastern battery and flew in that direction. General, enemy forces have broken through the eastern defenses and are now inside the city. Kiba said this to me telepathically. Damn, alright, destroy battery and then destroy enemy forces. I flew even faster at the southeastern battery, which I can feel comprised of high and ultimate class devils. Earth and fury, I said as spikes came up from the ground and killed some of the artillery devils. Thunderbolts of the end sky, I said, charging up my most powerful lightning spell to destroy the few remaining energy signatures I sensed. 10,000 lightning bolts descended from the sky, hitting the area where the spikes were, and completely blowing up the area. There were no more remaining energy signatures in that area, so I've succeeded again. Okay, time to attack the enemy from behind and cut off their escape. I flew to the eastern barricades, which have been completely destroyed. I descended to the cobblestone pathway, seeing the dead bodies everywhere as I readied my battle staff. I grimaced as the sight of dead bodies make me sick. Even though I've been doing this for years, there is still nothing worse than seeing dead bodies lying right in front of your face. I sense a large amount of energy signatures coming in my direction. Are they retreating? Well, whatever, they won't be leaving the city alive. I readied my staff and created hundreds of giant earthen hounds, and sent them towards the enemy that is nearing me. I could hear the screams of the enemy as they rounded the corner of the street and right into my hounds. I saw the hounds being destroyed and a group of foot soldiers with spears coming around the corner at me. It's the demon beast Master Hayado. They shouted at me in terror. They are using that old nickname for me? I thought I managed to shed it in favor of Midnight Star Hayado. Surrender now, I said as I noticed my troops closing in from all directions, encircling the group. Never, they said, charging at me with their spears. They might hold useful information, so I can't just kill them. I turned their hands into stone, and knocked the spears out of their hands with a wind spell. I then encased their feet inside iron shackles, and they fell to the ground as a result. Take them away, soldiers, I said as Kiba came into sight. General, the enemy is in full retreat, and I ordered a small force to encircle and destroy the retreating enemy. Kiba said after saluting me. I see. Damage to the city? I asked my second in command. Extensive damage to downtown and the historic sections of Lilith. When the enemy realized they couldn't hold the city, they destroyed many buildings on the way out, he said grimly. I see. See to it that the citizens are all right, and that they are properly fed and housed, I said to Kiba, who saluted and then left. Well, I managed to live to fight another day. It has been nearly 5 months since my last entry into this journal, and I felt that an update was in order. The reason that there have been no entries from June until the present day is that during the defense of Lilith, sections of the old city and downtown have suffered significant damage. My headquarters, the personal residence of Asmodeus, was completely obliterated in the fighting. Due to that fact, my journal was lost in the rubble, and was only recently found by one of my junior officers, who promptly returned it to me. As for the events that have happened from then to now, there really haven't been much activity on our front. My army, the 3rd Special Division, has been stationed in Lilith, and we haven't had any significant deployments in other sectors of fighting. This is rather surprising to me, as there is heavy fighting to the south of our current location. Old Satan faction forces have made a massive counteroffensive in an effort to reclaim the critical Zibilana Highway in August. The Old Satan faction briefly held the junction town of Dashura, but was pushed back after heavy fighting from our forces. The Old Satan faction's offensive was halted by the 18th Infantry Division, but now there is a stalemate with regards to fighting in that sector. In the northern sector of operations, the 32nd Cavalry Division, led by Dihauser Belial, captured the Whitehill Mountain Range after weeks of fighting the 2nd Dragon Knights Division. I personally know of the commander Johann Weepel. He is an intelligent, but stubborn leader. It was quite a shame that he decided to fight for the Old Satan faction. His stubbornness got his entire army surrounded by the 32nd Cavalry, and he decided to fight to the death rather than be captured. I personally don't follow that line of reason, so I don't understand why he decided to do that. As for our western sector, there has been no significant action since our push to the Athos River. This monotony is a welcome change for me. After constant fighting and redeployments to different fronts, it is nice to have a relatively set schedule to look forward to every day. Wake up, greet the citizens of Lilith, oversee my army's continuous training, and interrogate prisoners, among the multitude of daily tasks. Lilith is a rather an inviting city after we rebuild it. All of these were relatively simple, and don't involve me in harm's way. All good things have to come to an end though. Today, I received an assignment that I dread. My army is going to act as scouts for the main force behind us. Our job is to confirm the existence of a massive Old Satan faction field army amassing outside of the Brocelian Forest, which is to the southwest of Sabta, a small town right on the edge of the territory that we control. Central Command, by that I mean my superior Falbium Glaciolabilas, assigned me to this task. My orders are clear. If the Old Satan faction force is there, engage them while calling for reinforcements. If not, stay put in Sabta. I am not entirely content with this assignment. I feel my forces should be thrusted into the heavy fighting in the south, but I'm not the leader, so I have to go along with this mission. With this I will end. Issei Hayadu. I put my pen down, and closed my journal. It is relatively late, and the mission begins tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock sharp. It is time to sleep. I rode on my armored red griffin, past the controlled town of Ryops, on our way to Sabta. I sat on the saddle of the griffin, turning around to make sure my subordinates were following me. Indeed they are. Kiba, Matsuda, and Motohoma were flying on their griffins, as were the lower-ranking officers. All of the regular troops have their devil wings out, and are flying closely behind us. Indeed this is a drawback for our military. The massive anti-teleportation spell enacted by Surzex and Ajuka over our territory is working well, Too well. The spell prevents the old Satan faction from teleporting into our territory, but it also prevents us from teleportating from location to location under our control. In other words, no one can teleport, period. Quite a nuisance, as flying is quite an inefficient way of transporting large amounts of troops clandestinely. The old Satan faction has a similar spell in their territory, preventing us from simply teleporting into their territory as we wish. This is quite humorous and annoying in my opinion. We have magical abilities, but we are fighting like humans do. This is the sad reality of warfare here. General, the city is on fire. My second in command, Kiba Yudo, shouted at me, snapping me out of my thoughts. Indeed, Sabta is on fire. I could see the civilians scrambling in the town, trying to put out the fire. I also see figures on horseback retreating into the forest. They are probably raiders of the main force embarked inside of the forest. Kiba, take Matsuda and some troops and secure the perimeter. I shouted at Kiba, who nodded and descended in altitude with his griffin, as did a group of my soldiers. Motohoma, help any of the civilians, I said to him. General Hayate is said to help the civilians. Motohoma shouted to the soldiers behind him. My griffin started to descend in altitude as I stood up in the saddle. I focused on the town, which was in flames. I concentrated and held out my right palm. I'm not the best at water spells, but I'll try. Rampart Typhoon, I said as a water orb materialized in my right hand. The orb started to shake before flying up to the sky, causing clouds to appear. A heavy downpour started over the town. I tried to direct the downpour on the buildings on fire and not of the civilians, as I don't need any civilians complaining to me. The fire started to gradually die down, but the embers could ignite back up at any time, which is not good considering that Sabta is a town made completely from wood. I jumped from my griffin, opening my wings and landing safely on the ground. I see that the buildings are soaking wet, but that is fine as long as they are still standing. General, Kiba said as he approached me. Kiba, is the perimeter secured? I asked him, retracting my devil wings. Yes, General. We've secured the perimeter and held back a brief counterattack by the enemy. Something troublesome has come to my attention though, Kiba told me as I raised my eyebrows. What is it? I asked my subordinate. You should come see for yourself, he said as I nodded. He turned around and walked in the other direction, and I followed closely behind him. We walked through the burned-out town, passing structures that are charred and barely held up by the seams. It will take some time and effort to fully rebuild these structures. It is rather ironic in my opinion. We devils have immense powers to destroy, but very few powers to create and build. It is a shame to use show aptitudes of magic for warfare instead of buildings or works for the public good. I felt a nudging of my shoulder, snapping me back to reality. General, we are here, Kiba said slowly as he continued to nudge at my shoulders. Of course. What did you want to show me? I asked. I looked around, seeing the edge of town to my back and the forest to my front. There are numerous dead bodies in front of me, mostly of villagers and the raiders of this village. This is it, General, Kiba said, pointing his sword at a dead body. What about it? I asked, not sure at what he was getting at. The body, clearly male, was dressed in black plate armor, and there is a sword by his right hand. This, Kiba said as he picked something up near the body. It can't be. Black feathers. Fallen angel feathers? What are they doing here? I asked aloud. I then turned to Kiba, wondering about what the fallen angels were doing in this war. How far away are we from the border of the fallen angel territory? I asked Kiba. About 35 miles. He said back. All right, what do you think these fallen angels are doing here? I asked my most trusted subordinate as I felt he contributes valuably in terms of his opinion. I'm not sure. Maybe they are mercenaries allied with the old Satan faction, he said as I pondered the possibility of fallen angel mercenaries. It certainly isn't out of the realm of possibility that old Satan faction has hired fallen angel mercenaries to do their bidding. I know because I've faced some of their yokai mercenaries when we took the city of Agata. The yokai that I've faced were powerful Kitsune yokai. They aided the old Satan faction's 7th Shock Troop Division, and fought bitterly to the end. They were good soldiers, too bad they were on the opposing side. General, who do you think these fallen angels are under? Kiba asked me. That's a good question. I'd like to know myself. Azazel doesn't seem like the type to order his subordinates into a war that isn't his problem, so I doubt it is him. Kokobil seems to be the most war-minded out of the leaders of the Grigori, so it might be him. Or we just may be overthinking this entire thing, as maybe it just might be a small rogue detachment of fallen angels enticed by whatever the old Satan faction offered them. I said to Kiba, not really sure what to make of the fallen angels being here. General, someone shouted. I turned my head to the source of the voice. It was two of my soldiers, standing a few feet away from me. "We have a live one," the large one on the right said. I immediately rushed over to the sound of coughing and moaning. The two soldiers let me see what they saw, which is a wounded female fallen angel in a pool of blood. "General, we found this one when we looked among the bodies," the same soldier told me. I stared down at the body, which is of a black-haired woman. "Raise her up," I asked of my soldiers. They picked up the fallen angel by the arms and held her up, so I interrogate this one. "What is your name?" I asked up as the fallen angel, who has a rather pretty face, scowled at me. "Go to hell, I'm not telling you anything," she said, spitting in blood into my eyes and onto my face. I wiped out the blood from my eyes and face with my handkerchief, before staring at the fallen angel again. "That wasn't the best idea, darling," I said, this grabbing the chin of the fallen angel before slapping the face of the fallen angel. "Now I'll give you another chance. What is your name?" I said as I held my right hand on in front of her face, using magic that inflicts pain on any beings, regardless of the species. She screamed before I stopped using the magic, lowering my palm. "Ready to talk now, darling?" I asked with a smile before I placed my palm in front of her face again. "Yes." "Stop with the magic." "Rainier. My name is Rainier," she screamed out. "Who sent you?" Kiba said as he brandished his sword to her face. "Fuck you, pretty boy," she said. "That's it. I may tolerate many things, but vulgar language is not one of them." I immediately placed my palm on her face, and applied a much stronger version of the pain spell directly applied to the skin this time. "Stop! Stop it!" she shouted out as I applied a bit more power into the magic before stopping the magic. "Answer the question now?" I asked as I retracted my palm. "Kokabeel. Kokabeel sent us," she said out quickly. I looked at her disgustedly as I heard the name. "I hate when I'm right. Take her away," I told my soldiers. "You'll die. You'll die. My master will not let me rot away," the fallen angel said, among other obscenities as she was being led away. I thought about bringing her back so I could kill her for insulting us, but I then decided against it. I looked at my subordinate, who has a serious look on his face. "Well, what do you think?" I asked Kiba. I think she was telling the truth. If she was lying, she probably would have showed some facial movement that I would have picked up. Kiba said. "Alright, so you think Kokabeel really in this war?" Kiba asked me. "I don't know. Anything is possible," I said as I looked at the city behind us. Something confused me though. Intelligence rumored of a massive old Satan faction force. "Do you think that the intelligence was off and we just stumbled upon something else?" I asked Kiba. "No. I believe the intelligence just didn't make a distinction," he told me. "I guess so. Let's go back into town and interview civilians about what they saw," I said to Kiba as I felt something. It was a suppressed aura, definitely someone or something trying to hide its presence. Just a single aura though. The person behind it must be very powerful. "Say, do you feel that?" I asked my subordinate, who just looked at me. "No, what is it?" he asked me with a questioning look. "A suppressed aura. It may be the beginning of their counterattack," I told my subordinate. "Should I evacuate the civilians?" Kiba asked me, to which I smiled. "You read my mind," I said to Kiba, who promptly bowed and then left. I sighed before taking out the devil wings from my back to fly. I watched the forest, looking for any signs of trouble. I saw thousands of light spears coming at me from the corner of my eye. I put up a magical barrier and promptly reflected them back towards the origin. As the light spears were shot at me, I put an elemental storm behind the light spears, so ice, fire, and wind strikes were behind the light spears. The combined attack destroyed an area of the forest, causing a cloud of dust to appear, obscuring my vision. Even though I couldn't see through the dust, I felt the aura take to the sky and hover opposite of me. I casted a simple wind spell to cause the dust to fly away, and I could then clearly see the figure. It was no doubt a fallen angel. A powerful one at that. 10 wings, cadre level fallen angel. This should be fun. Kokabeel, I presume, I said to the male figure across me with pointy ears. "Ah yes, devil. That is my name," Kokabeel said to me with a smirk. "What is the cadre level fallen angel battle maniac doing here? Or did I just answer my own question?" I said as he smirked even deeper. "What do you think it is, stupid devil? We fallen angels are obviously the strongest beings out of all of them. The stupid Shemhazai and cowardly Azazel didn't want us to prove our superiority over you bugs, so I had to do it by myself," he said arrogantly as I rolled my eyes. "Alright, so there aren't fallen angel mercenaries. Just a rogue battle maniac that I will kill soon. Alright, so you weren't part of the old Satan faction. That's nice to know," I said, joking. Bah! Do you really think someone as high as me would need to ally with those fanatical devils? I'd rather incinerate in the sun before stooping to the devils and helping them, he said as his aura leaked out. Well, know that I know you're not part of the old Satan faction. I still have to eliminate you, I said as I created thousands of earth balls which I sent flying at him. Die, he said as he used the feathers in his wings as bullets, which he sent at my rock balls, destroying them. I rushed in behind the rock balls, setting up one of my most powerful lightning spell in order to damage this guy. I sent rock spears from the ground and launched them at Kokobile, who simply destroyed them with his feathers. I distracted him by launching earth spears, which he blocked. Is that the best you have? You're a weakling, Kokobile said, causing me to get angry. Really? I'm the weak one? Come fight me if you are man enough. I taunted back, creating a magically reinforced earth sword in my hand. I'm more than happy, Kokobile said, creating a light sword in his hand. We flew at each other, our weapons in hand. Clash! Our weapons hit each other, and caused a tremendous amount of energy to be released. I backed up, but then flew back at Kokobile, and we clashed again. Bwah! This is something I've wanted to do for so long, he said as I noticed a small light dagger materialize in his other hand. You talk too much, I said as I managed to dodge the stab of the spear by breaking away from Kokobile, before smiling. I felt a sufficient amount of aura was charged up, so it is time to use it. Astropi Kervanos, I said as one of my most powerful lightning spells was unleashed. In rapid succession, 1,000 electric snakes bit into Kokobile's body and released electrical current into him. Kokobile screamed out as millions of volts rushed through his body. I took this time to make sure he was going to die by launching fist-sized rock balls at him, pelting him to the ground as the snakes just kept on biting his flesh. The screaming eventually died down before completely stopping as the last snake bit his prone body. I felt the aura disappear from his body. He has died. Kokobile has died. A fallen angel from the Bible. I killed Kokobile. I smiled at this. I just killed a cadre-level fallen angel, but I saved the town from potential obliteration. Not so bad for a boring assignment, eh? It has been a rather interesting several months since the last update within this journal. We made progress on the southern fronts, but we also lost territory to our northwest. The old Satan faction is using the Archives Desert as their base of operations, and they've been using that area as a staging springboard for attacks on our northwestern territories. Just this week, 3 of our towns that we have fought hard to take have fallen back into their hands. On other news, I've finally heard the last of the fallen angels' rhetoric. Ever since I've killed Kokobile, angry factions within the fallen angels' main organization, the Grigori, have rattled their sabers and clamored for war. It was all just a bunch of smoke and mirrors in the end. They know that they are still militarily at a disadvantage in terms of troops and troop experience. I knew that nothing was ever going to come out of it, mostly due to the severe ideology differences between the Grigori and the old Satan faction. If anything, one should have expected the Grigori to come to our side against the old Satan faction, who from what I've gathered view the old Satan faction as a bunch of extreme fanatics. Still, I've received a severe tongue lashing from Seraphal, for apparently setting back relations with other factions immensely. It was rather hard for me to take that seriously with Seraphal's obvious childish personality when she was scolding. Ever since the battle, I'd been placed in our temporary capital of Nama as my superiors debated what to do with me. It has taken 4 months of utter bickering to decide that I am not a threat to the war effort, and as such, today I am attending meeting with Sirzex to discuss a matter. The matter was so apparently important that Sirzex is asking me to meet with him in private at his headquarters in Lilith. What the matter is, I do not know. The meeting is in 30 minutes from the time of this writing, so with this, I will end. I put the pen down and closed the book after letting the ink dry on the piece of paper. Yudo, come in. I ordered my most trusted subordinate, who is standing guard outside the room. Yes, General? Kiba said after coming into the room. Get the griffin ready, I said to him. Kiba bowed before leaving the room. I got up off my chair and went to the closet to put on a light piece of armor. Can't be too careful now, can I? I selected a light piece of magically enhanced mail armor, and wore it over my body. I then took my magic staff and headed towards the door. I opened the door and made my way to the entrance of the building that is my temporary residence in Nama. As I got to the entrance, I could see Kiba mounted on my red griffin. I stepped onto the griffin, and it took flight. It takes about 20 minutes to get to Lilith from Nama by griffin, so I sat back and reclined in the saddle. General, may I speak my mind? Kiba's voice said to me. Of course, what is on your mind? I asked him. What is the next course of action in this war? He asked me. You know I don't know that, Kiba. Why do you ask? I asked my subordinate. I just want to give a definite answer to my subordinates as to where we will be going next, Kiba said to me. You know there are no definites in warfare. You should know that better than anyone else, I told Kiba. Of course, General, Kiba said to me. The rest of the trip was filled with silence. I closed my eyes to get a little bit of rest, but Kiba's voice awoke me from my slumber. General, we are here, he said, causing me to open my eyes. Indeed, we are here. My griffin is standing on the grounds on what used to be the personal residence of Lucifer. To my right, there is a red carpet with palace guards on each side. I dismounted the griffin and walked on the carpet, with Kiba following closely behind me. I walked to the door and was greeted by the Gremory family's personal butler, a man that I've seen since childhood visits to the Gremory estate. The man is an elderly gentleman of short stature compared to me, wearing a traditional black butler outfit with white gloves. Ah, Issei, you are here to visit with Lord Surzex? He asked me in his usual polite tone. Of course, that I said with a smile. I always like this old man given the way I've seen him treat everyone, regardless of who they are. Follow me then, he said, turning around. We walked through a labyrinth of hallways and a sea of stern-faced saluting soldiers on our way to Surzek's room. His room was on the 4th floor, as the butler told me. We soon reached a massive wooden door draped in a red cloth, and the butler knocked on the door. Lord Surzex, your friend, Lord Issei, is here to see you, he said as I smiled at the Lord Issei part. Of course, yes, send him in, Ruthford, Surzex said as the butler. Ruthford opened the door. Surzex smiled as he waved me into the office. I walked in, leaving Kiba to stand outside. Surzex's office was extremely elegant, with an ivory work table, adorned with the finest relics from the human world. I, to be honest, do not know why Surzex likes the culture of humans so much to have such items in his office. Surzex got up from his desk and walked in front of me. Issei, my friend, Surzex said as we hugged. Nice to see you too, Surzex, I said, breaking off the hug while smiling. You haven't changed at all, have you, Surzex? So, what was so important that you had to bring me here? I asked my friend, as Surzek's face turned serious. I am in love, he stuttered out. Who is the lucky lady? I asked my friend. Whoever this woman is, she is lucky to have someone like Surzex as a husband. It's Graphia Lucifuge, he said. Wait, what? Did I hear that right? A Lucifuge? Graphia Lucifuge? Surzex, you know what? I started to say before Surzex interrupted me. Yes, Issei, I know that she is a Lucifuge. The mortal enemy of our cause. But I love her, and she loves me back. Love? What do you know about love, Surzex? Don't you think there might be an ulterior motive for this? She is trying to distract you and sabotage our war effort, I said as Surzex glared at me. Issei, are you so cynical you can't see true love? I'm in love, and she loves me, Surzex said as I shook my head. And so what? You are going to rescue her from old Satan faction territory? Do you even know where she is? I hate shouting at my friend, but I need to shake some sense into him. Graphia is bad news for Surzex, and he knows it. Yes, I know where she is. She wants to be rescued from old Satan faction territory, Surzex said as I stared at him in disbelief. And how are you going to do that? Go charging in there by yourself and pluck her out of there? The area she is in is probably crawling with highly trained Lucifuge guard troops given who she is and how close her family is to Rizavim, I said, trying to get through to my friend. No. I'm having help for this, he said as I rolled my eyes. Are you crazy? No one in their right mind is going to help you with this. In fact, does Ajuka or Serafal know about this? I shouted at my friend, who looks enraged. No, they don't. I came to you first because I wanted you to accompany me into old Satan faction territory to help retrieve her, he said as he grabbed my hand. Surzex, I'm doing this as a friend. Do not do this. I will not help you destroy yourself over false love, I said, trying my back to my friend and walking towards the door. Issei, what about all the times I've helped you with Akasha? You can't repay me for what I've done for you. Are you going to destroy my love because yours was lost? He shouted at me as I stopped in my tracks. What did you say about Akasha? No one talks about her like that. I turned my body around and shouted it directly at Surzex's face. Let the anger go, Issei, and help me claim my love, Surzex said as he stepped forward to me. I slapped Surzex in the face with my right hand. It made sense. I could understand him. Surzex, you do a lot of stupid things, but I can see you are right with this. I will help, I said as Surzex's face lit up. Where is she? I asked my friend. Demonim, he said to me. All right, let's head out tomorrow, Serzex and I managed to sneak out from Lilith under the pretenses that Serzex and I were having a heart-to-heart in Serzex's office, and were not to be disturbed under any circumstances. We managed to slip out of town in the middle of the night on horseback, and we headed northwest to the territory of the old Satan faction. Demonum is a rather small city about 30 miles from our territory, so it shouldn't be that much time until we get there. We are both in disguises to conceal our true identities. Serzex is famous throughout the underworld for his flaming red hair, and I am known for my military exploits, so we needed to change our faces and bodies with magic. Serzex became a 6'3", tan-skinned slave with black hair and blue eyes. I became a 5'10", tan-skinned merchant with brown hair and green eyes. We both had to suppress our auras to low-class devil levels to avoid suspicion as we travel. My name is now Johann Agrippa while Serzex is now Weinak Higher. My cover is that I am Serzex's master, and we are headed for Demonum for a slave auction. We are playing the parts well, in my opinion. Serzex looks the part of the slave with his rags, and I look like a merchant with my fancy suit. We managed to fool a checkpoint on the highway into Demonum, which is about 2 miles as we are on the outskirts. We are riding in a covered carriage, pulled by horses that we stole at the border. Serzex is steering the horses, and I am sitting in the back. I see Demonum through the trees. It is a city remarkably similar to Lilith, architecture-wise at least. Oh great, more checkpoints. I see a checkpoint right in front of the entrance to the city. The checkpoint is heavily manned, with at least 30 heavily armored troops manning the checkpoint. I can feel their magical auras from over here. A few middle-class devils and the rest of them are high-class devils. I can see one of them putting his hand up, indicating us to stop the carriage. What is your business here? The squeaky male voice said behind the face mask. We are here for the slave auction in a week. I told the soldier respectfully as I noted the movement of the other soldiers out of the corner of my eye. All right, anything suspicious to declare? The same soldier asked me. No, nothing to declare, I said to him. All right then, you may proceed, the soldier said as the spikes in front of the road were removed. Thank you. We passed through the gap, and headed to the stone bridge that leads into the city. We went over the bridge and made it into Demonum. All right, where is she held up? I asked, whispering into Serzex's ear. Don't worry, just follow me. I know where she is, Serzex said as we pulled into a stable. There are stables on the outsides of all major cities, so this is not uncommon for the underworld, or even the human world. I paid the stable boy with 20 gold coins to watch the horses. We aren't going to need them on the way out anyway. We walked side by side on the streets of Demonum. People walked by us without batting us an eye as we walked towards where Grafia was holed up. Serzex told me that Grafia sent him a secret note, telling of her location to be 377 Ronwy Street. Ronwy Street, a site of many impressive manors within a city, and it still is from what I currently see. The manors are quite impressive, all of them being 5-story mansions, coated in beautiful colors of paint with many windows looking out onto the street. There, Serzex told me. Geez, I could have guessed that myself. Serzex is talking about the manor at 377. I can clearly see the heavily armed Lucifuge Guard troops standing in front of the manor. Lucifuge Guard troops are the best bodyguard forces that the old Satan faction has at its disposal. The Lucifuge Guard was an entire army regiment under the command of Euclid Lucifuge before the Civil War, and when the war started, it was no surprise that the entire army regiment went to their side. I've had the unfortunate experience of battling with these troops. They are exceptionally trained, armed, and fanatical to their leaders, Euclid, and Rhizavim Lucifer as the Lucifuge Guard acts as his personal guard. What to do now? Serzex asked me as I eyed the stern-faced Lucifuge Guard troops. I stared at him in disbelief before thinking of my response. We first find a way in. I have an idea. Let's knock out some of the Lucifuge Guard and infiltrate our way in, I said to Serzex. Sounds like a plan, he replied. All right, now it is the waiting game. Serzex, how is your uniform? I asked Serzex as I put on the helmet visor. We managed to corner 2 Lucifuge Guard troops urinating away from the manor, and we killed them, and are now putting on their armor. Well, I managed to put on my uniform, but Serzex is fumbling around with the helmet. It's on backwards, stupid. I twisted the helmet so that it was the right way. Thanks, Issei, he said as he adjusted the helmet to properly fit his face. Ready? I asked Serzex as he stared at me in his helmet. Yes, let's go. I know the way, follow me, he said as we left the alley that we currently stood in, and walked onto the street. We made our way back to the manor, and slipped inside. The manor was very impressive with many wonderful paintings hanging from the well-decorated manor. There were many pairs of Lucifuge Guard troops patrolling the manor. Serzex and I walked side by side, making us look like every other pair of guards. Serzex and I walked up a flight of stairs to the second floor, where apparently Grafia is held. Yep, judging by the guards in front of the room and the heavy smell of perfume, I'd say that is Grafia's room. There are 2 stern-faced guards standing outside of the room. There is no way we are getting inside without them knowing. Lord Euclid is requesting your presence downstairs, Serzex said to the guards as we approached them. Really? Lord Euclid made it clear that we are to stay guard here, no matter what, Serzex said to them. Okay then, the 2 guards said, walking past us to get to the stairs. Wow, I couldn't believe that actually worked. Serzex knocked on the door. Lady Lucifuge, may we come in? He asked me to say through the door. Come in, I heard a feminine voice say from behind the door. We opened the door to find 2 women inside. Grafia Lucifuge, I'd remember her face anywhere. I've seen her many times at the various underworld social functions we've attended. She is wearing a flowing white dress and sandals on her feet. We have an escape to do. Couldn't you wear something that is easier to escape in? The brown-haired woman to her side looks to be her handmaiden, given the way she is dressed. Grafia. It is I, Serzex said as he took off his helmet. His face is back to normal, as is his voice. I kept watch on the handmaiden, wanting to make sure she doesn't make a sound or anything like that. Nope. Her mouth is starting to open, so I rushed into action. I rushed in and covered her mouth with my hand. She kicked and screamed as I kept my hand over her mouth. Ouch. The bitch bit my hand. Alana, it is fine. They are here to help us, Grafia said to the handmaiden, who stopped struggling. You can let her go now, she said to me. I released my grip on her, and she ran away from me before turning around and giving me the death stare. Lady Grafia, these men are anti-Satan faction men. These are our enemies, she shouted at Grafia, who is currently in the arms of Serzex. Yep, I knew it was too early to let her out of my grip. Yes, they are. But I love him, Grafia said as she put her hand on Serzex's cheek. Sister, are you okay in there? I heard a male voice say from outside the door. Master Euclid, there are. The handmaiden started to say before I blasted her apart with a fireball. The door was bashed open with troops entering the hole in the wall. A effeminate male figure entered behind all of the other soldiers. Euclid Lucifuge. I hate this guy so much. Okay, think Issei, how would you get out of this? Escape you too, I'll hold them off, I said as I blasted the soldiers in front of us with lightning from my fingers. There was a big explosion in the room as the lightning hit the soldiers. I heard the sound of glass shattering behind me. Going through the window? Interesting. I turned to see the glass window behind me broken. I jumped out the window and opened my devil wings up, and took flight. I raced towards Grafia and Serzex, and both of them had their devil wings open, so they were flying at top speed. Serzex, rain down some spells to slow their pursuit, I shouted at Serzex as I heard spells being cast from below. I myself turned and launched a hail of earthen balls at the attackers below. The balls managed to slam into the attackers below, killing all of them as I confirmed with their disappearing auras. Still, it won't be long until the Lucifuge Guard arrives on Griffin back to kill us. Okay, we essentially have to avoid the Lucifuge Guard and other old Satan faction fighters for 30 miles. Alright, not an easy thing to do considering I see a bunch of them coming at our 12 o'clock. Fly faster, I shouted at Serzex and Grafia before I created thousands of sharpened earth spears, which I sent flying back as I propelled myself even faster. I briefly turned my head to see all of the ones that were chasing us not there anymore. They died. Job accomplished. Another powerful energy signature is rapidly approaching us from behind. Euclid Lucifuge is coming. It is his presence that I felt at the manor, and it is the one I am feeling now. Damn it, and we were so close to the border. Only 10 miles to go, and at the speed we were going, we would have made it in less than 2 minutes. Alright, buy them enough time by stalling Euclid. I stopped in my tracks and spun around to see a rapidly approaching Euclid. He does not look happy by any means. Alright, bring it. I created a storm of earthen spikes that I sent at Euclid. Euclid grinned and created 2 ice dragons that smashed the storm of spikes. The dragons then roared at me, rushing me by covering a large amount of distance in a short amount of time. Impressive speed, if I may say. I created lightning bolts which caused the dragons to explode and connect with the dragons, causing ice fragments to rain down on the ground below. I felt him try to freeze my body over, and I countered appropriately by releasing a stream of energy out of my body to prevent the freezing. Impressive, Issei Haida. Your reputation precedes you, Euclid said with a smirk. He knows who I am behind this helmet? I took off my helmet and stared back at Euclid. It feels weird to be complimented by your opponent during battle, but nonetheless, it is a gentleman's duty to return the gesture, as does yours, Euclid Lucifuge, I said as he created a sword of pure ice in both of his hands. You ready? He asked me. A gentleman's duel. Of course I am ready. I created 2 reinforced earth swords in my hands, sticking to the ideals. Of course I am ready, I said, rushing at Euclid, who rushed forward. We clashed with our swords, releasing a tremendous amount of energy in the process. I pushed against his swords, and he pushed against mine with equally ferocious determination. We repelled each other away before each launching ice and earth shards at each other. We dodged each other's attacks, and we charged back at each other with our swords. We charged at each other many more times and retreated back, before coming back for more. Again, the swords clashed and ended in a stalemate again. This is going nowhere quickly. I morphed my swords into 2 large earth hammers as Euclid turned his swords and ice spears. His spears have a lot more range on them than does my hammers, so I have to be worried about that. Alright, I thought of a great plan. I rushed forward at Euclid with a shield wall of earth in front of me. I then threw one of my hammers at the wall, shattering the wall. I took Euclid by surprise by throwing a second hammer at Euclid, who hit him in the stomach, causing him to drop the spears. I've stunned him. Time to go in for the kill. I created another hammer, and swung it at his face as hard as I could. The hammer hit his face, causing blood to fly out of his nose as his body hit the ground below at a very fast speed. I followed his body to the ground very cautiously as I could still feel his aura. As I descend to the ground, I launched thousands of earth spikes at the crater where Euclid is. His body got up from the crater that was created from the impact. His face is bleeding profusely from the nose and jaw. There are numerous spikes protruding from his body. I created an earth sword as Euclid created an ice sword. Alright, one of us will die. I rushed at Euclid, who struggled to raise his sword up. I leveled my sword at Euclid's neck and waited for the blade to make connect. At the last second, I saw a smile appear on Euclid's face, and the ice sword rised rapidly. I spun around, dodging the ice sword, and when I turned back, my arm swung the sword at his head. I heard a head chop off and something roll away. I felt his aura disappear from existence. Euclid Lucifuge has died. One of the leaders in the old Satan faction has died. He shall be treated with dignity. I opened my wings back up, and stared one last time at Euclid before turning away. Alas, he was a worthy opponent. Shame he wasn't on our side. He would have been a fine soldier on the side of good. This followed my own interrogation at the hands of Central Command. My interrogation was mostly Seraphal scolding Surzex and I about what we did. Yes, I know that infiltrating old Satan faction territory was stupid. You don't need to hit my head to get that point across. Anyway, we managed to get valuable information from Graphia about the old Satan faction, most notably their chain of command, which is broken, according to what she said. Graphia mentioned that only Satan Leviathan and Asmodeus are running the old Satan faction. I already killed Satan Beelzebub, and apparently Satan Lucifer has abandoned ship a long time ago. Satan Lucifer has gone into hiding, and is no longer an active part of the old Satan faction war effort. The old Satan faction is stretched thin, and it will only take a few well-placed strikes to make them crumble. The most valuable piece of information, however, was the location of a secret base in the northwest of old Satan faction territory. This base houses Unit 666, which is working on a top-secret project called Project Nemesis. Graphia managed to copy documents which show of this group's existence in the Abumesh forest. The purpose of this group is still unknown to us, but with the bits and pieces of information given to us by Graphia, it has something to do with creating the perfect soldier, whatever that means. The deadline for this project is shown to be March 10th, which is 3 days from today. On the deadline, one of the Satans is scheduled to inspect the facility. Whatever this project is, we have to stop it from being released to the old Satan faction command, in which case it may alter the course of the war. So on March 10th, we have the ability to gather their intelligence, as well as capture or kill one of the remaining Satans, further crippling the abilities of the old Satan faction to wage war. We've fought too long and hard to let this war slip away from us now. I purposed to strike on the facility in the Abumesh forest, and this strike was approved by my superior, Falbium Glagiolabilas. My army, the 3rd Special Division, is to meet up with the 77th Infantry Division, an allied army led by Rudger Phoenix. I've heard of Rudger Phoenix's numerous exploits as the leader of the 77th, which was aptly named the Phoenix Squadron. His division survived the siege of Ixahol, and managed to break out of the besieged city with many civilians. That was a seemingly impossible task that I don't think I would have been able to complete. Anyway, back on topic. I managed to mobilize 100 of my finest troops, and we are to meet with 200 members of 77th Infantry Division inside the city of Pmzoshin, a town under our control. We are to then march through the Abumesh forest in an effort to locate the facility, which is said to be heavily guarded by the 491st Light Infantry Brigade, which is a fierce fighting force from what I've read. From there, we are supposed to somehow take over the facility, and salvage as much information as we can. If one of the Satans is there, great, they die. In order of importance, these are the objectives assigned to me: capture or kill the visiting Satan, salvage information about Project Nemesis, capture essential personnel. I'm not entirely sure how we are supposed to do all of that, so I will consult with Roger Phoenix when we meet. With this I will end. I shut my diary, and put it in my desk drawer. I am going to depart for Pmzoshin later today, but right now it is time for a short nap as I've been continuously up for the last 24 hours thinking of possible strategies to discuss with Roger Phoenix. I went into my bed, which I conveniently placed near my desk, and quickly descended into a deep slumber. I awoke shortly after 8 hours of sleep, and got dressed. I headed out the door, and met with my second-in-command, Kiba Yuto. Yuto, have you mobilized the men that I asked you to? I asked him as he stood at attention. Of course, General. But I thought we aren't due to depart until tomorrow morning, he said. He is right, but I thought of something in my sleep. Plans have changed. Send a message to Central Command that we are going to meet with Roger Phoenix today. I have a plan to accomplish the objectives assigned to us, I said as he saluted. Of course, General. They will all be ready to deploy within the hour, he said. Great. My plan can have no delays. We flew to Pmzoshin, my group and I. We were escorted by griffins as we approached the town. Ah, Pmzoshin. I remember going here as a young man. It was a beautiful city famous for its food, especially its dishes from the human world. The buildings are intact, which surprised me considering the fact that there was some particularly heavy fighting around this area. I remained in awe of the city as we descended. I dismounted my griffin and was saluted by a man in his early 30s, wearing a full suit of armor. The man is a rather handsome man, with slicked back blonde hair and piercing green eyes. Major General, welcome to Pmzoshin, he said. I returned the salute back. General Phoenix wishes to speak with you, please follow me, he said as we returned back to neutral position. I nodded and followed him as we through the beautiful streets of Pmzoshin. We eventually ended at a massive building that has the words Pmzoshin Chamber of Commerce on it. I entered the building with my guide, who I learned is Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton. We walked through the heavily guarded building, until we came upon the office at the end of the hallway of the second floor. Hamilton stepped in front of me, knocking on the massive wooden door. Yes? A calm voice said from the other side. General, it is Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton. I bring with me Major General Haidu, he said. Send him in. Hamilton opened the door, leading us into his office, which is elaborately decorated with various statues of the Phoenix and Phoenix family. Roger Phoenix is sitting on the other side of his office table. It is everything that I heard the Phoenix family members are. Tall, blonde, and blue-eyed devils. Major General, it is a pleasure to meet you, he said, standing up from his desk and walking towards me. I walked forward and saluted him, which he returned. He then put his hand out, which I shook. So, let's get talking about the plan, he said, walking over to the cabinet, pulling out a bottle of liquor. Drinking man, I can appreciate this. He put the bottle of malt on the table and then put out 2 glasses for us. He poured the liquor onto the glasses as we sat down to discuss the plan. Cheers. Brilliant. Simply brilliant. I finished discussing the plan for taking down the Unit 666 facility with Roger Phoenix. His plan was absolutely flawless from what I could see. Now I know why he graduated the military academy at Shimazia at the top of his class. The plan essentially takes place in multiple stages, each occurring after the one before it is completed. Stage 1, find and encircle the facility, letting no one get in there. Stage 2, take the facility over, and kill everyone there. Stage 3, look for any signs of Project Nemesis while disposing of any blood or dead bodies as we use enemy uniforms. Stage 4, ambush the visiting Satan and kill him, or her if it is Leviathan. Stage 5, send out a fake distress signal after raiding the facility with explosives. Stage 6, evacuate the facility with the project information in hand. Quite a brilliant plan. My idea was to attack the facility while simultaneously attacking the Satan's convoy from multiple directions. His plan was better though, I admit. Shall you be the one to tell of our plans? Or would you prefer that we jointly address the troops? We will do it together. Alright, so that is the plan. Roger's group will run point while my group secures the perimeter. After that, we will enter the facility and assist in the disposal of the bodies while taking any uniforms. One part of the group will remain in the forest to hold the perimeter, I said, addressing our troops in the center of Ocean Square. Any questions? Roger shouted next to me. Sir, no sir, his troops shouted. The distinct red color armor of the 77th tells me that those who shouted were of his command. We'll roll out at 7 o'clock sharp tomorrow, he said to our troops. You are all dismissed now, I said as our troops started shouting war slogans, bringing a smile to my face. We are lurking around the forest now. We've found the facility after searching the forest for an hour. Roger's army went in like planned, and my group is maintaining the perimeter. My sword is my hand, my eyes scanning the surroundings in front of me. I look at Kiba, his face and armor painted in camouflage. The facility is under our control now. Come in and help us clean up this mess. Roger telepathically messaged me. Alright, groups 1 and 2 move into the facility with Kiba and I. Motohoma, Matsuda, you know what to do, I said as they saluted me. It is now their job to maintain the perimeter, and have eyes on the road to the facility. Group 1 and Group 2 followed us as we walked into the clearing where the facility was. The facility, a small manor within walls, was now firmly under our control from what I see. General Haidu, General Phoenix requests your presence. He says it is of the utmost importance, Hamilton said to me and Kiba. Kiba, help with the effort, I said, sending Kiba away. I followed the lieutenant colonel into the manor. The clean-up crew is working fast. There is very little blood from what I can see, and the bodies are being removed from my sight. We came upon a room that Phoenix is standing in. What did you find? I asked Roger Phoenix, who has a manila folder in his hand right now. He seems to be concentrating deeply into the folder, but he then turned to me and handed me the folder. Take a look at this, he said, handing me the folder, which says Project Nemesis Eyes Only on it. I looked at the contents of the folder. I looked at the various notes within the folder. Amazing, they were close to finishing this. What I am looking at is simply astonishing. The folder contains Project Nemesis files, which appear to indicate evidence of reviving dead devils. I believe this was firmly impossible as dead devils go to the dimensional gap to rot, but their work appears to say otherwise. I stared at Roger Phoenix, who has the same expression of shock that I currently have. I think Kajuka would like this, I commented as a soldier ran into the room. The soldier is a very young-looking soldier with amber hair, but there is something in his eyes that makes me believe he is far older than his physical appearance. What is it, Sanders? Roger Phoenix asked. We found a secret lab. There are things trapped inside cages there. You should take a look for yourselves, generals, he said as he saluted us. Let's take a look, Roger and I said in unison. We followed the young Sanders, who I learned is a sergeant from Roger, to a room where the shelf is moved, revealing a secret staircase behind it. We walked down the stairs, and came upon a lab of some sort. There is see-through glass, and I looked to see humans, devils, fallen angels, and monsters chained to tables and cages. Some of them are brutally disfigured and hideous, causing me to turn away in disgust. So they were using these things as test subjects? I asked disgustedly as I stared back at the stairs. It appears so, Sanders said to me. Are any of them alive? Phoenix asked. It appears 3 out of the 5 you currently see are alive, Sanders replied. Good. We can see if they know anything. We should prep them for questioning. I couldn't agree more, Phoenix said back to me, so we did just that. They've been running this place for years now, and it is only now coming to our attention? Great job, Intelligence Division. We couldn't really get any information from them, so we put them out of their misery by executing them. Roger incinerated the bodies, making cleanup that much easier. Anyway, the base is completely secure, and we mopped up the last of the blood. We've distributed captured uniforms and acquired valuable information about Project Nemesis. All we have to do is wait now for them to come. Remember, we are not to fire until I give the signal, I said to my troops back in the forest. I'm with my troops again, securing the perimeter around the facility, while overlooking the road to the facility. This is the only road in and out of the facility, so the Satan will most definitely come through the road. I spent the night going over our plan with the troops, and this is just the final pep talk. It is nearly 10 in the morning, but I'm sure that the Satans are going to come soon. From the information I've gathered, the remaining Satans, Kadusha Leviathan and Charlene Asmodeus, are morning people if you understand what I mean. Everything they do is early in the morning, at least that is what it says in their dossiers. The intelligence from our spies indicate that when they travel to inspect military regiments or facilities, they come under extremely heavy guard. Estimates range from 25 guards to 250 guards. But there was a pattern to their visits. Both Satans only visit between the hours of 10 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, so if their history is still relevant, we should be expecting a visit very soon from one of the Satans. Right now I am overlooking the road from the bushes, and I hear sounds coming closer. Hoofs, the hoofs of the griffins walking on the road. In front of that sound, there are the sound of boots marching on the road. They're here. I gave the signal to my troops to stay down as I got a pair of binoculars. I focused on the 3 griffins in the mass of troops. I looked at the people on the griffins to see who we are dealing with. I see a Satan. It's Satan Asmodeus. I smirked as he was led into the facility by our troops. He has a small bodyguard of 10 troops, leaving about 90 on the road. Alright, we just need to get him into the facility, and then on Roger's signal, we will attack. Any moment now. Any moment. Satan is in the building. I repeat, Satan is in the building. Roger telepathically messaged me. Attack. All forces attack. I shouted, causing an earthquake on the road as the signal for all forces to attack. All of our forces attacked their forces on the road, killing all of them. It was pure slaughter as they were attacked from the sides and front. There were no survivors after 20 seconds. Stop attacking, I ordered as Kiba ordered our forces to search for any survivors. Roger, tell me you got him. I asked my fellow commander. We've done it, Issei, we've killed him. I smiled. 2 down, 1 more to go. The end is finally in sight. This war is firmly within our grasps. The old Satan faction is on the retreat. They are scattered with the loss of 2 Satans and the desertion of Rizavim Lucifer. Only Kadusha Leviathan is left, and we have some of our best regiments after her. For the past week, most battles have just been mop-up operations, clearing out remaining pockets of minor old Satan faction resistance. There is only one major territory that is still under the old Satan faction control. The territory of the Nibirius in the far north, the home of icy mountains, is still firmly under the old Satan faction control as it has been for the last 10 or so years. I am to meet with my superior Fablium Glaciolabilis later this week to discuss the order of action in dealing with Nibirius territory. As for today, my armies are on leave, spending one of the rare moments of peace with their families. As for me and Kiba, we have a rather special occasion later tonight. We were invited to the officers' ball, a dance that only top-level officers were invited to. It is a pomp and circumstance event, much to my dislike, and I'd rather avoid it, but Sirzex insisted that I attend. I've always avoided these things, so I'm not sure as what to expect, but I'm sure it will be a new experience. I've been instructed to wear my formal dress uniform, much to my displeasure. Kiba just entered the room. Is it time already? With this I will end. I closed the journal and placed it in my desk. Kiba truly looks like a Prince Charming in his dress uniform. Kiba, ready the griffins outside. I'll be out in a few minutes, I said as he bowed before leaving the room. I sighed as I got up from my desk and went over to my closet. I opened the door and there it was. My dress uniform, something I haven't wore in ages. The blue jacket, dress pants, shoes, and service hat. I first put on my white skirt and tie, putting the tie on after buttoning the shirt. I then put on the pants, and fit the jacket over my body. Still fits. I found a pair of black socks, and placed them over my feet. Finally I put on the black leather shoes before examining myself in the mirror. It has only been 10 years but the feel of this uniform makes it all feel like it was yesterday. The innocence, naivety, of my youth is rushing back into my mind. I smiled before leaving the room with my service cap in my hand. I walked downstairs where Kiba was waiting. I look 10 years younger, don't I? I asked my subordinate. Yes, General, Kiba said as he got onto his griffin while I mounted mine. We took to the sky in the direction of Lilith, where this ball is to take place. The underworld night sky is beautiful. The purple sky passed us by as we flew towards to the city. The underworld sky is far different from the human world sky. Each is beautiful in its own little way. Ah, Lilith is beautiful from the night sky. We flew over the sky towards the Astaroth estate on the outskirts of the city. Astaroth estate, one of the finer estates in all of the underworld, has a grand ballroom that will play host to the officers' ball. I smiled as we descended into the Astaroth estate. The dance hall is massive from what I see as we descend in front of the hall. May we take your griffins to the stables? One of the suited valets said as they approached our griffins. I let him take my griffin as I stared at the ballroom in front of us. It is beautiful, with marble columns and ornate windows covering it. Kiba, ready to go in? I said as we walked into the ballroom together. It's sad really as we are the only ones without women. Kiba had shunned the advances of many women but they still proposed to him. We walked into the main room, which has a dance floor and many tables beside it. I stared up in awe at the numerous pearl ornaments and oil paintings hanging from the ceiling. The chandeliers hanging from the ceiling are simply magnificent, their lights brightly illuminating the room. The band is playing music from the human world as the songs they played aren't any I've heard in the underworld. We walked to our table, which is adjacent to the table with Falbium, Ajuka, and Sirzex. Ah, Issei, you made it, Sirzex said in a black jacket with brown vest underneath. This isn't my cup of tea by any means, I said honestly as Kiba waited by my side. Kiba said politely as Surzex chuckled. Please, that makes me feel old. I told you that you call me Surzex, Surzex said smiling. Well, I'm off to the bar, I said as I spotted the bar in the corner of the room. All right, I'm a drinker, I admitted. It tastes good, and I use it to help cope with problems during the war and Akasha's death. I take a sit on the ornate stool by the bartender. What will you have, sir? The white-haired man asked me as I looked at his name tag. Siegfried. Medium dry vodka martini, shaken not stirred, I said as he nodded and started to make the martini. I looked around, seeing the various couples strolling through the doors. The Agars family, the Belial family, the Bale family, just strolling into the hall. Sir, your martini is ready, Siegfried notified me, causing me to turn back to him. I took a sip of the martini. Good flavor and taste. I reached into my pants pocket and pulled out a crumpled $50 bill. Cheers, I said, giving him the $50 bill as a tip. Cheers, indeed. I started walking to my seat when I was surrounded by 4 girls. I know 2 of the 4 girls. They are sisters of Surzex and Serafal. Rias Gremry in a beautiful white gown, Sona Citri in a modest red dress that shows very little skin. It has been years since I've seen them, and they certainly have grown up. Issei, it's so good to see you, Rias said, crushing me in one of her signature hugs. I've missed that. I remember getting crushed so many times when I was younger by her. My martini is safe though. Nice to see you again, Rias, I said as I broke off the hug. Sona, nice to meet you again, I said as I smiled at Sona, who looked back at me with a serious glance. Give me a little smile. Issei, nice to see you again, Sona said as a little smile crept up on her face. Who are these lovely ladies with you 2 beautiful girls? I said as they blushed. I still have these awesome pickup skills. Issei, I'd like you to meet my friend, Akino Himejima, she said as she pointed to her friend in the beautiful white kimono with flowers. Nice to meet you, I'm Issei Hayato, I said, taking her hand and kissing it like a true gentleman should to a lady they've just met. Era, a true gentleman, she said chuckling as I turned to the lady beside Sona. Issei, this is Tsubaki Shinra, she said as I kissed Tsubaki's hand. This Tsubaki is wearing a purple gown in the same style as Sona's. How long has it been? I asked as they looked at me with kind smiles. 12 years? I asked as Akino giggled. 9 years, when the war started, Sona said as I smiled. Really? I could have sworn the last time is when you 2 were in diapers. Rias had the cutest baby face. Sorry, Sona, I said as Rias blushed. Issei. You promised that you wouldn't talk about that. I'm sorry, Rias, sometimes I forget things, I said as Akino giggled more. Well, we should get together when the war is over. It truly has been too long, I said as I started back to my seat. Time for the couple's dance. Please come to the dance floor and begin to dance, the announcer said as I felt a tug to my sleeve, prompting me to turn my head back. It was Rias who looks embarrassed. Will you dance with me? She said as I smiled. Of course. I put down my drink and followed her to the dance floor. There were 2 lines of people, man and female, and I was obviously on the male side. Opposite of me, Rias is standing with the women. The violin played. I bowed towards Rias, who curtsied before taking a step towards each other. We walked past each other, crossing over to the other line without taking the eyes of each other. We walked towards each other again, my right hand out while Rias has her left hand out. They touched and we circled, dancing to the tune of the slow music. We switched hands as the music changed pace. You dance well, she said as we got in close. I've had a lot of free time. The music switched tunes. The minuet tune came on. Alright, I know this. I put my hand around her waist, and we grasped hands, twirling around as the music intensified. The music broke as Rias came in close, kissing me on the cheek as the music died down. No one has done that since, Akasha. What is this pain in my heart? Do I love her? No, I can't. This disgraces Akasha's memory. Wait, maybe Surzex is right. Maybe I should move on. I went over to Rias, who is talking with Akino now. Ladies, Era, your partner is here. I'll leave you 2 alone, Akino said as she left. Rias, will you dance with me again? It has been a calm 2 months since the last update of this journal. Kadusha Leviathan has died in the city of Harem last Friday. She has managed to elude our dragnet for the last 2 months, but she slipped up last week. She attempted to gather old Satan faction forces for one last offensive. We believe her goal was to slip into downtown Lilith and seize many of the top devils to convert back into their ranks, but that plan was foiled. She tried to recruit Niberos Ranwi, a low-level devil that has ties to my family, and he in turn told me of this. I told military intelligence of this, and they managed to follow back a courier of hers back to the city of Harem in the far west, past the Gope Desert. The courier led to the locations of various lieutenants and the few remaining generals under her command, and eventually to Leviathan herself. She was holed up in residential manor near the downtown of Harem, the manor of a prominent businessman if I remember correctly. Falbium approved multiple strikes on the hideouts of the various followers of her, which occurred last week. Only Leviathan, a few of her generals, and 3 lieutenants put up any measurable resistance. The majority immediately surrendered when they were confronted by our strike teams, much to my and headquarters' surprise. In the surrounding of Leviathan's manor, she and her few remaining troops attempted to break out of our barricade of her manor. She managed to inflict heavy casualties to the forces surrounding her, and she briefly made it into Harem's downtown. She required the attention of all of our forces in the area, and as such, all the available armies attacked her group. She was killed after hours of intensive combat, and we've recovered her body to confirm that she is indeed dead. Katyusha Leviathan's last stand came on the corner of Main Street and 77th Street. Wounded but refusing to give up, she charged at our forces, and was immediately cut down by Phoenix Fire and Citri Water. After her death, the enemy's structure collapsed. Many of the remaining armies surrendered their arms and were taken into detention camps for the time being. Those that chose not to surrender were encircled and destroyed almost immediately, with the few exceptions of the forces holding the cities of Alosar, Hage, Bifrons, and Seppa. The forces in those cities were destroyed and within 5 days once we've redeployed troops to those areas of combat. In all major cities, a sense of normalcy has been restored. The task now is still unclear. Headquarters is still unsure with how to deal with the surrendered troops. Some are pondering executing all of them, others believe in imprisoning them for the rest of their natural lives, and others believe in full clemency for the lower-level troops. Those are the questions for the future to answer. As for me, I'm planning on performing the duties as heir of the Haida clan once I get demobilized from active duty. I feel that today is my last day as commander of my army, as I'm tasked with meeting with my entire army to give them the news of the disarmament of our army later today. After that, I will meet with Surzex, Seraphal, Ajuka, and Falbium in the Palace of Lucifer for reasons I am unclear of. I believe that it is time I address my troops. With this, I will end this entry, and I do believe that this will be the final entry of this journal. I truly hope that whoever finds this will never forget of the sacrifices of those in this war, and the cost of the entire generation of young devils. Goodbye. I put down the pen and sighed. I stared out the window, seeing many of troops in the field just outside of my room. I stare at the podium, which I will be standing on shortly. I look down at my watch. 10:34 a.m. It is time. I stare down at troops in front of me, looking back at me in silence as I pull out the piece of paper that I wrote my speech out of my pocket of my dress uniform. On second thought, I don't need the pre-planned speech. Inspiration comes from the heart, not the mind. I slipped the speech back into the pocket, and took a deep breath before speaking. Soldiers, today we celebrate not the end of a conflict, but the beginning of a new era. Today, we walk the path we've created by our own hands. We've lost people we knew, people we were friends with. I said as I trailed over, thinking about everyone I've lost during this war. Don't let their sacrifice be forgotten. Make no mistake, their sacrifice helped purchase peace. Peace not for us, but for our children, our children's children, and their children's children. Let's not ever forget what they did, but remember to set an eye towards the future. The future of the underworld is bright for us. The underworld views you as heroes, and that is what you truly are. It is your time, lead, prosper, soar, and become the future of the underworld, I said as everyone started clapping. A tear trickled down one of my eyes as they started clapping for me. We've been through so much together, it will be hard to leave them. I walked into the chamber room with Ajuka, Seraphal, Falbium, and Surzex sitting around a circular glass table. There is an empty seat, which I sat in. Everyone is staring at me with intense expressions. How would you like to be a Satan? Surzex said as I raised my eyebrows. Interesting. We've all become Satans, Ajuka added. I felt you were a very competent leader during the course of the war, and this is your reward afterward, Falbium stated. We can both be Satans, Istan. I winced at Seraphал's outburst, but then thought about the offer. All of you became rulers of the underworld? What about the possible backlash from the families? I asked back. They've unanimously approved us to be rulers of the underworld. As such, we've all forfeited our rights as heirs to our clans and adopted the names of the former rulers as our own, Ajuka said as I nodded. So why do you need me? There were only 4 Satans, and you 4 have filled those positions, I asked as Falbium stared at me. We are all always in need of qualified, capable people, and you are most certainly capable. I thought about it, and nodded. So, which Satan am I? I asked as Surzex put his hand on his chin to think. Mammon. Issei Mammon? I think I like the sound of that. When do I start as Issei Mammon? Daddy, my son, Shinji, shouted in the other room. Yes? I said as I rushed into the room, where Shinji and my daughter Asuka were in. I looked worried, but then I saw the book in my son's hand. It's that book, my journal from the war. How long has it been? 10, no 11 years. Yes, Shinji. I had Shinji immediately after the war ended, and he is 11 years old now. Did you really do all of these things in this book? Shinji asked me. I picked up the book, and flipped through the pages. It is quite sad that I only have 6 entries in this book. The memories are coming back. Son, I did do all of this. But that was a long time ago, I said as I gave the book back to my son. What is all this noise this early? My wife's voice said from the doorway. I smiled and turned around to see my wife with a sleepy expression on her face. Rias. Sorry, Rias. Shinji was just looking through the box of my war materials and found my journal, I said as she smiled at us while coming closer. What did I tell you about rummaging through your dad's stuff? She said at our kids. I'm sorry, Mommy, they said in unison, especially Asuka with her pouting face. Don't apologize to me, apologize to your father, she said as she gave me a good morning kiss. Sorry, Daddy. It is no problem. Now go play outside, I said as they nodded. So, they found your journal? Yes, Rias. So many memories from the war, I remember. After the victory celebration, we started dating and we got married a few months afterward before having Shinji. Indeed, Rias. I smiled as I glanced at the door, where my head maid was standing. I ushered her in, and she whispered in my ear. I nodded as she told me Ajuka was coming. Send him in, I said as she went out of the room, and reappeared shortly afterward with my fellow Satan in tow. Ajuka, good morning, I said as the maid left. Good morning, Issei. Good morning, Rias. Good morning, Ajuka, Rias said as she looked at him with a questioning face. I am here to deliver the pieces to your son, he said as Rias whispered in my ear, questioning me as to what the pieces he is talking about. You didn't tell her? Ajuka asked me. I thought it was still considered classified information. This is the unveiling, so you could have told her ahead of time. What are you two talking about? Rias said with a pout. These, Ajuka said as he held out a box of red chess pieces. These are pieces that I've created that can replenish our numbers, he said as I looked at Rias's surprised face. During the war, we've recovered information from the old Satan faction that can revive the dead, and Ajuka refined that information. I explained to Rias. Yes. I believe that in order to replenish our numbers, we need to transform other races into devils, and these pieces will be suitable for that purpose. As such, I believe that every young devil heir should have access to such pieces, Ajuka finished. And why didn't you tell me something like this earlier? Rias asked me as a dark aura encircled her body. I looked at Ajuka for words, but he just turned away from me during my time of need. Help a brother out. Yes, sorry, Rias, can't hear you right now, I have to go to work as Satan, I said as I ran out of the room. Phew, I will not have Rias be that angry with me in the morning. It happened once before, and I'd rather not deal with that this early in. Alright, managed to get to work safely and in one piece before Rias had a complete meltdown in front of me. I am right now walking the halls of the Palace of the Satans in central Lilith. The Palace of the Satans is an entire campus of buildings where each Satan does their work, and the central building, which acts as a meeting hall for all of us. This is the former head of government of the old regime, and it is now functioning as the place of our current regime. My building is in the northeast section of the Palace of Mammon. My duty is to oversee the financial aspects of the underworld, and as Mammon, it is my duty to regulate commerce, business, and to ensure fair trade and competition throughout the devil underworld and parts of the human world. Under my watch, the first national bank of the underworld was created, as was the HSE, the Hell Stock Exchange. I see my assistant in front of the building, waiting for me with the briefcase of today's agenda. Good morning, Kiba. Good morning, Director, Kiba said as I shook my head. How many times have I told you, it is Issei. I swear that you did this during the war too. That's right. Kiba Yuto is my second in command here, just like he was back in the days of the war. After the war, I became Mammon and needed good people to surround myself with. There were many exceptional people who wanted to become my right-hand man, and Kiba was the most exceptional out of all of them. So I took him in as my assistant, and he has been absolutely essential to my duty as Satan Mammon. What is on the agenda? I asked him as he gave me my daily morning drink, something the humans refer to as tea. A meeting with the treasury over the proposed minting of new currency, a lunch with the head of the Belial family, and a dinner with Satan Lucifer and his wife later tonight. I nodded as the events were known. Kiba, I wouldn't know what to do without you. Alright, let's get this day over with. Phew, I'm exhausted. The meeting was boring and tedious, just like the other meetings with the treasury. Die Belial's house, I must say, has some of the best chefs throughout the underworld, and that is saying something. We had a beautiful lunch at his lakeside chateau near Lake Gope. We discussed various topics, and the lunch was very good, if not great. Now begins the dinner I am having with Satan, Lucifer, and Graphia, or if I am not being formal, my brother-in-law and his wife. I am approaching the gates of Surzek's mansion in Lucifad, where he told me he had something very important to discuss with me. So important that it must be in person at the comfort of his house, and that it couldn't be done at the Satan's palace. Rudolph. I smiled at Surzek's loyal butler. He is always so kind to me, even when I was a little boy. Master Surzek is waiting. Then let's not keep him waiting any longer, shall we? I followed behind Rudolph to Surzek's working room before Rudolph turned around and waited in front of the room. After you, sir, he said as he opened the door for me. Surprise! They shouldn't have. A surprise birthday party for me? Very everyone is here. Surzek, Graphia, Ajuka, Serafal, Falbium, Kiba, and of course, Rias, who is holding the giant birthday cake for me in the center of the room. Thanks, Rias. I love you so much. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Skylinemaster for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.